Yeah. All right.
All right, let's get this party started. All right, welcome to week 37 of What Did Prince Do This Week? We have a lot to talk about this week because in terms of 1984, because a lot happened this week. But before we get started, we got to say hello to Drea Dances. Thank you so much for stopping by, even though you have to work because of a board meeting. I totally get it. We got Cassandra Bradley, one of the AT aliens in the chat, still trying to finish listening to the Michael Dean and Big Sexy discussion. We'll talk about that in a hot second. Definitely a heavy week. And we got April from Tampa. We got Andre from Detroit. We got Judea. We got Kimberly. Yes. I was hoping someone was going to talk about the dedication of the road to Under Simone's Bernadette Anderson. So Kimberly, it seems like you went and the party was off the chain. Let us know if you can say more about that. That would be amazing. We got Nick from Denver. We got Christina from Minneapolis. Christina, did you go to the Bernadette Anderson Way dedication? Welcome, Letitia, a new subscriber from Maryland. Thank you so much for joining us.
Letitia, girl that I never had. What's up, Letitia?
We got Mila, my heart. We got Sister Charles from H-Town. And happy birthday, Amy Winehouse. Yes, love Amy. My literature brother, welcome. We got Chris Cornet in the house. We have Chanel in the house. All right, so Mila is saying that Funkatopia just posted a SoundCloud clip of Prince and Amy performing Love Is a Losing Game this morning. First time listening for me, and it was great.
Nice. Shout out to Funkatopia.
Yes, always shout out to Funkatopia. We got our timekeeper here, and you got to keep some time this week, Kim, because it's going to be a long one. Tanja from Martha's Vineyard.
What up, Tanja?
Thanks for joining us from Martha's Vineyard. And we got Man Ray 10. We have Byron B. Good morning. We got Pamela Glass sending love from Minneapolis. I love having Minneapolis being represented. Welcome, Lisa. I'm somewhat awake. I'm actually with you, even though I've been awake for hours. Even though I'm still tired from the week. And yes, Eldebar Michael's back.
What up, El?
Yeah.
El
from Ireland. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
And we got Laura from Romania. We got Dagmar from Slovakia.
What? It's like these places I ain't never been physically, but I guess digitally.
Yeah.
I'm kicking it in. Man, they out kicking it out in, what's it? Slocobanium. I can't even say it. But I love it. That's what's up.
Yes. Man. Thank you so much, our international crew. I'm so sorry. I understand work comes first. And we got Dr. Claw. Now we're ready. Oh, no. It's raining in the ATL. Welcome, Andrea. We got Lisa Williams in the house. Welcome from Wales.
Wales, what's happening? I'm over here getting my Mo Better Blues vibes going.
Yes. And we are global, baby. That's right, Tanja.
International. Yeah.
All right. So, Michael Dean and Big Sexy last night had a conversation about the Netflix documentary.
Also, Tammy was there.
And Tammy was there. Tammy Sharp as well. Welcome, El Michelle. If you haven't listened to it, make sure you... Tim chatters. That's weird. I don't know. We got Mooches from Philly.
Silly.
Andre said, Mike, did you sleep last night or are you pulling a 24-hour session?
I'm not doing a 24-hour, but I might be on 4 hours of sleep. But it's all good.
It's all good. It's all for the love of Prince.
I'm having a good time.
Yes. So actually, we were playing a little bit of LP music, and that is Leeds and Peterson, Eric Leeds and Paul Peterson. For those of you who do not know,
that picture of Prince, hilarious.
Yes, love it. Purple cat confetti. Love your avatar. All right. So, I still don't know how to use StreamYard after all of these months. Maybe one day I will get it right. So, as I was saying, Michael Dean, Big Sexy, and Tammy Sharp talked about the Netflix doc last night. If you missed it, it's in the accompanying playlist, but I'm hoping that everybody who's here is also subscribed to Michael Dean's channel. So you should know what's up. And if you're not, make sure you do. It's youtube.com/@mdean. And speaking of Tammy, welcome.
Hey.
Yes. And so Pamela said, love the convo last night, Mr.
Thank
Dean.
you, Pamela. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. So in addition to Michael Dean's podcast, Funkatopia is also going to do a discussion about the documentary. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I honestly don't want to talk about the documentary. One, we don't have time this week.
No, we don't have time.
Yeah, we definitely don't have time this week because a lot happened during 1984. But personally, I don't want to talk about it. The only thing that I will say, and I will say this, is that my heart goes out to Jill Jones, and that was very, very painful to read for me personally, and that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, and
shout out to Jill and shout out to everybody. Yeah,
definitely. And the other thing I will say, for those of you who go like, "Why you don't want to talk about it?" There's sometimes I feel like the universe responds and helps me out. So there's this amazing conversation with Esperanza Spalding with Guy Raz on this podcast called The Great Creators. And if you just listen to the first 25 minutes of it, you'll get a sense of what music means to me because I'm like aligned with Esperanza. So much so, in fact, that while I was listening to this podcast, I burst out in tears. It was a powerful, powerful conversation about the power of music. And so if you kind of want to know where I come from with the documentary, listen to the first 24 minutes of that, and you'll get to know me a little bit better through Esperanza Spalding, who is an amazing musician in their own right. And if you want to, what up, Real Londa DJ? I love your avatar for this week. You know what's going on. You did your reading. And we have Raywin. Thank you so much for being here. And I mean, I hope the one thing that you guys know or have figured out about me is that it's all about the music. Music is why I get out of bed in the morning. So I'll just leave it at that. All right. So what did Prince do this week? Week 37. This is a very slow read of Duane Tudahl's Prince Studio Sessions book series. I can't believe we're almost through with getting through with book 1. It's almost been 2 years. It's crazy to think about. Again, I can't stress enough how thankful I am for Michael Dean because no one else would do this except for Michael Dean. So I'm so grateful that Michael Dean is in my life. And yes, Christina, music is my life. I have to check that out, definitely. But yes, Michael, I am so grateful that you are in my life and that all the things that you do for the Prince community and all the interviews you've done over the years and facilitating really important conversations that the community needs to have. It's just, I'm personally not the person to do that. So
we appreciate you. So let's go. Let's move on.
Yes, let's move on. All right. So let's see. Good day, Vanessa. Welcome.
Vanessa.
Yes, music is medicine. That is correct. All right. So we're going week to week, not date to date. Follow detailed schedule at the bit.ly link or the QR code. You do not need the expanded edition, Michael Dean. But this is what we are reading. That's right.
3D.
And I don't have my, oh my God, I don't have my bookmark. Oh, yeah, I do. This is where we are in the book. This is how much we got left.
Oh, really?
So, yep, that's where we are in the book. And a lot of that is like all the notes and stuff that Duane actually, because there's a lot of notes, which is one of the things that I actually absolutely love about Duane's books that I find is missing in other Prince books is what's the source. So actually, those are all the notes. And then that's the rest of the book that we have to read. So we're getting down to the end. So yes, Lisa, what did Prince do this week? Let's get into that because, like I said, a lot happened, and in fact, I really need to change the title to "What Did Prince and Sheila E Do This Week?" Because you'll understand that once we get into it. But again, these are archived on my YouTube channel as well as Michael Dean's YouTube channel. Please subscribe, like, and help spread the word about what did Prince do this week. We really appreciate it. This is our hashtag WDPDTW. That's our email, particularly when we start getting into the Purple Rain tour. But right now we're actually into the Glamorous Life tour. So if anybody went to the Glamorous Life tour before the Purple Rain tour and you have any tickets or any photos or anything that you'd share, you'd be our best friend because I would love to see that. It's not a lot. I've been searching and I can't find stuff, not even on prince.org, which usually can come through, but not this particular time. I'm glad to hear that there is some fans of Esperanza in here. And yeah, El Michelle, take them flowers, Michael Dean. That's right.
And I will. Thank you.
Yes. All right. And for those of you who are new, because we have a newbie this week, and I'm sure there's more newbies, this is not affiliated with Prince's estate. This is an independent endeavor. And I don't know what's going on with my image. Okay, something's wonky. But anyway, it's not showing the album cover like it normally will be. But this is basically from the No Words LP from Eric Lees and Paul Peterson that was released in 2017. The song that we played was called That's All There Is to It. All right, so week 37, episode 88. What did Prince do this week? He wrote 2 new songs. He was in the studio 3 times, and technically I really need an asterisk because Duane wasn't too sure about some of this. So 2 new songs, asterisks, 3 asterisks, just pretend there's an asterisk there. But he definitely had 1 live appearance with Sheila E. And let's get into what did Prince do this week. And this is the reason why I said we got a lot to talk about this week. So we got Wonderful A, which is, let me make sure.
Ass.
I'm trying to keep this,
no wrong with saying ass. Wonderful ass. Say it.
Yes. So we have overdubs and edits. We have that was on Sunday. On Monday, we have basic tracking of what we know as Paisley Park, because earlier in the year, we talked about a Paisley Park instrumental that isn't the Paisley Park that we know, that's still unreleased. And then on Tuesday, there were a lot of mixes for She's Always in My Hair, too much to put in a little rectangle. And then on, Wednesday, we had Paisley Park strings, and then we had a funky jam rehearsal. Oh, well, jam, like a jam rehearsal, and supposedly the song's called Funky. And then we had another rehearsal of Raspberry Beret, as well as basic tracking for Raspberry Beret. And again, I've said this almost every week. It's amazing to think about. Prince is not even on tour for Purple Rain yet, and he's almost finished Around the World in a Day record. It's kind of insane to think about. And then on Thursday, we have Raspberry Beret, strings, background vocals, and Prince joins Sheila E on stage at the Ritz in New York City. It's important to say the Ritz in New York City because I didn't realize there was another Ritz overseas. And then there's also strings for High Fashion. So this was a busy week in 1984 for Prince. All right. So before we get started, this is what we talked about last week. This is we kind of figured out that this picture probably belongs to the Cleveland, Ohio date based on the review that we read last week. So if you missed last week, we read a review of this performance by Sheila E, where Prince joins on stage. And based on the description of what Prince had on, we think actually this photo is from the Cleveland, Ohio Sheila E show. And also, we think that these are pictures of Prince coming to Cleveland, Ohio from, again, the article that we read last week. So if you missed last week, go back last week. So I love these, just showing these photos and making new discoveries about certain photos. And the more information, the better. All right, so we're going to get started, and we're going to let Michael Dean do the 401, 402 for Wonderful. And it's going to be super fast, Michael. I just really want you to read what's in the gray box about the song and literally go to the next page and start with For Today's Session, which is almost at the end, the paragraph right before status and that. So not much for this.
All right. Wonderful Ass. Overdubs and edits. Flying Cloud Drive Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Producer Prince, artist Prince Revolution, engineer Susan Rogers. For today's session, an edit was created for a potential 7-inch single release of Wonderful Donkey. No, Wonderful Ass. I see you, Kim. Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
That's all.
Well, because we talked, so you weren't here last week. We actually talked about Wonderful last week. And so these, these are the overdubs and edits. So.
I will just say, one little comment about this song. I mean, when I first heard this song, it was one of those like, really? Like, this didn't come out? Like, it was just like, this would have been an obvious banger. Like, I'm like, man. It's one of those ones that boggles my mind to like, man, you decided, nah, we're not gonna put that out. Like, I already got so much heat. Yeah, that's all. Now I ain't worry about that song. I don't know if I was around them, I'd have been like, yo, where's Wonderful Land? What's going on, man?
Yeah, but
I love the song.
I love the song too. But we did get it on the deluxe version of Purple Rain, which is amazing. By the way, I also always wanted that song. And so like what I mean by that, having a pristine copy of the song, obviously we have the boots and stuff like that. So that was great. And then I love this comment from Chris. Like, so I went to my first concert as a Prince concert as a 12-year-old. And the only reason why I got there is because my mom didn't know who Prince was. And because my uncle and aunt took me. So I totally relate to this comment because Chris said no adult in my family would have taken a 12-year-old me to a concert. So I feel like very, very lucky. You're never late, Karan. Thank you so much for being here. All right. So we're going to get to our next session, which is going to be about Paisley Park. And I'll take this, and we're not going to read the whole thing because it is actually quite long. So this is where you need to make sure that you keep up with the readings because we don't read everything on What Did Prince Do This Week. Okay, so Monday, September 10th, 1984, estimate, Paisley Park, basic tracking, Flying Cloud Drive Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, producer Prince, artist Prince and the Revolution, engineer Susan Rogers. Again, I always love that Duane Bowles Prince's quotes, and this is Prince. Paisley Park is the place one should find in oneself, where one can go when one is alone. It's a feeling someone knows when they get it. That's all I can really say. And I have my Paisley Park shirt on today in tribute. And we're going to go to page 403 first, and it's kind of in the middle where it starts off with Susan Rogers. So Susan Rogers remembered how Prince's vision was unfolding during this particular session. I think Around the World in a Day gave him a sense of direction. I think if Around the World in a Day was the head of the project, I think Paisley Park was the tail of the project. I think Paisley Park was a summary of what he intended to say. Taking the title of an instrumental he had recorded at Sunset Sound in March, Prince, again, taking the title, like not the song, because again, there's another version of Paisley Park, but it's just called Paisley Park and it has nothing to do with this version. Prince recruited Wendy Melvoin and Lisa Coleman to help create a new and unrelated song. Around the Roll in a Day was a lot of the three of us sitting down and saying, let's write this, observed Melvoin. He'd have the two of us go in and do arrangements, string arrangements, vocal arrangements, and the guitar and keyboard parts. That's where it really started, our writing a lot together. We were there to help create and facilitate and put the right frame around or give him the right choices or make him feel good about his choices, she adds. He got it when we were there. It was like, okay, we're here to help. Let's go. Eric Leeds addressed Prince's shifting musical focus. I think Prince got an idea on that Around the Roll in a Day was not going to appeal to as many people. I don't think that particularly concerned him. It was going to be what it was going to be. Prince agreed. This is a Prince quote. I sort of had an FU attitude, meaning that I was making something for myself and my fans. And the people supported me through the years. I wanted to give them something, and it was like my mental letter. And I know that Prince was speaking directly to me because I personally loved Around the Roll in a Day when it came out in real time. And I wasn't expecting Purple Rain 2 because I had been following him, even though I was a little person. I knew he switched it up every single album. So Susan Rogers was with him for the entire fall and shed some light on this statement. I think that a FU attitude sounds way too harsh. I think he was at the happiest time in his life, and I think that was important. He was in power. He was determined that he wasn't going to make Purple Rain 2. He was in a position where he could test his creative strength. He was smart enough to know that he had to do Around the Roll of the Day was a record he absolutely had to make. Prince just couldn't wait to get Around the Roll in a Day out, insisted Bobby Z. He was fed up with Purple Rain. You make the album, you record it, you mix it, you promote it, and tour with it. You're sick of the music. It's a tedious process. Prince continued feeling that the music of Purple Rain was dated, and he unrelentingly recorded as much new music as time would allow and pushed to have it released as quickly as possible. Now I'm going to skip the next paragraph and go to the basic track was done with a band at the warehouse, she recalled, but it was heavily overdubbed by Prince. And we've heard this before with some of the tracks on Purple Rain, who may have replaced some of the parts that the band members played. We've also heard this where he would re-record certain parts. I don't remember specifically which ones, but he took a long time with that. I'm going to skip the next paragraph. Although this date has come up multiple times in the research, there is a small possibility Paisley Park was recorded in May 1984. And it's also worth noting that the Flying Cloud Drive warehouse was referred to as Paisley Park on his Around the World in a Day album, even though Paisley Park Studios didn't open until September 1987. I think that's a really important part of this chapter. Jimmy Jam has gone on record stating that the track sounds like a retread of the slow version of the Beatles song Revolution. Okay.
Jimmy Jam.
Yes. So we're going to go on to our, actually, no, we're not going to do that. Next, what we're going to do is.
I have one question in just in regards to Paisley Park, and maybe it's been talked about before. Was there ever any discussion of other names that they could have possibly had on consideration for the building?
Oh, that's a great
I
question.
just wonder if it was, because I was just thinking as I'm reading this, I'm like, what it would have been like if it had been called Erotic City. I wonder if they were like, yeah, we want to have a building in Erotic City. It was a whole different vibe to that. But
I love that thought. I mean, obviously, I love Erotic City because obviously I named the last symposium Erotic City 40. Right. So, and that would have been pretty crazy to have named it Erotic City. But I think in tone, because like when I think of Paisley Park, I think of basically that quote, Paisley Park is in your heart. And if it was named Erotic City, you would have different. I
was going to say, it'd be a different vibe to it.
Yeah, it would definitely be.
You stay until dawn?
Yes.
I don't know what them parties.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe they had other names too. Who knows?
Yeah. Welcome, Robert Loss. It's so great to see you. Yes, great question. And I love this. We all love Paisley Park, which is neither Paisley nor a park. It's a state of mind. That's
Mhm.
right, Chris. And yeah, thank you. Yes, I have a little birthmark. And then let's see. Purple Cat Confetti says, I just don't hear any Beatles vibe in it. And let's see what else we got in here.
There is a park.
I think, Byron, are you saying that Around the Rolling Day was a huge disappointment commercially? Is that what you're saying? Felt like he was trying to push away new fans that discovered him. Oh, no, that's not what you're saying. It says, felt like he was trying to push away new fans that discovered him via Purple Rain. Sign of the Times would have been an awesome Purple Rain follow-up. I don't think he was trying to push away. Well, okay. I don't know what Prince wanted to do or what was his intent. But I will say that if you followed Prince's career up until that point, everything was different. Like For You is different from Prince. Prince is different from Dirty Mind. Dirty Mind is different from Controversy. Controversy is different from 1999. 1999 is different from Purple Rain. Purple Rain is different from Around the Rolling Day. Around the Rolling Day is different from Parade. And you go on and on and on and on and on. So for me, Prince was doing what Prince had always done, which is switch it up. That's my personal opinion. I'm sticking with it.
Now, I was one of those new fans at that time, but I was in the Purple Rain. Obviously, that's what got me into it. But when that did come out, it did throw me for a loop, but I didn't have any expectation. I just knew it wasn't what got me in. But what it made me do was I went back and bought Dirty Mind, Controversy. Those became my Purple Rain 2s. I bumped those. And Around the World Day, I still was playing it, but I was so like enamored, like, how did this stuff come out? And I ain't never heard about, I was just like, this is the shit right here. And then I just kind of waited. And then actually, Jesse Johnson came out around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I jumped on the Jesse, it just still had that sound. And I was just, the 12 inches is what really fed me during that period. When I heard them 12 inches, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's that stuff I was hearing. There it is right there. So that kept me like, yeah, there's something else going on here to let me sort of help, digest Around the World in a Day as a newbie at the time.
I really appreciate that. Just hearing it from your perspective, that makes a lot of sense. So thank you so much for sharing that. And let's see what Blade Brown is saying. I'm glad the style was switched with each project. By the time I caught on around 98, it was like going back to collect books with different adventures. I love that. Mm-hmm. That is so amazing, Blade Brown. Thank you so much. And Chanel says Prince was a student of Stevie Wonder who gave us back-to-back albums that were unique every time. Yes. Man Ray says, to your point, Prince did say in that 1985 Rolling Stone magazine interview that he wanted all of his albums to sound different when you played them, when you place them side by side. Thank you so much, Man Ray. That's such an important quote. Yes, Jesse Johnson's "Can You Help Me?" All those songs just fire for sure. And let's see, Carol said, I think he said what he wanted it to be when he said he wanted folk to go inside themselves to look for God perfection. He'd move on to a higher mindset. And Kim is saying Around the World in a Day was different, but I was open to whatever Prince was doing, teaching me music appreciation. Love this quote very much. And Dirty Mind Controversy 1999 blew Around the World in a Day away. That's Byron's opinion. And then Chris says, Around the Rolling Day solidified me as a Prince fan. It showed me the depth of his talent and the fact that he wasn't as concerned with being commercial as he was with being an artist. I think that's a really important quote.
It's so funny because I can agree with that, but then it makes me think like the fact that we would consider Prince's, or I guess the fact that Prince's sound became commercial. Because it certainly wasn't commercial. Like he was an underdog, but just it became popular, right? So no fault of his own,
Yeah, actually Arthur Turnbull often brings up this point that at his heart, Prince was really a cult artist who just happened to blow up
Mm,
commercially. But at his core, that's really truly, who he was in terms of like really coming up from it from the art perspective.
mm,
All right. So again, we have so much to talk about. So this is an article from the Indianapolis Star, and it talks about Sheila's strong debut in Indianapolis. Again, this is Sheila E's first tour as a solo artist, and I do want to read it. So this is by Jill Warren.
Real quick before you read, the thing that just dates it for me and or takes me back, the movie advertisements in the paper, that was just such a thing. Like I'm sorry.
No,
The drive-in, the Bolero, Bo Derek. I don't know, people say, who the fuck is Bo Derek? Listen.
yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Another reason why I love looking at these old newspapers is for the very same reason, because it gives you context that I personally have forgotten. So that's the reason why. Look at Kim. Like, yes.
Kim is on it.
Okay. All right. So this is by Jill Warren. Sheila E., better known in some circles as jazz percussionist Sheila Escovedo, made a memorable solo debut at the Vogue Saturday night before 2 sellout audiences, because there are 2 shows back to back. Miss Escovedo brought along an excellent 7-piece band to recreate the music she performed alone on The Glamorous Life. You know that's not right, but okay. Her attitude and stage presence makes her very much a female Prince, her mentor, rather than sex kitten protege like Vanity or Apollonia. Perhaps that's because, unlike those other Prince finds, Miss Escovedo had an impressive performance career before she and Prince combined talents. I love that, combined talents. Her drumming has been praised and used in concert and on vinyl by such artists as Lionel Richie, George Duke, and Herbie Hancock. But then again, Miss Escovedo is no slouch when it comes to looks. She's a strikingly beautiful woman whose choice of clothing, while it would look foolish on most, looked extraordinary sexy on her. Striking a very Prince-like pose back to the audience, bouncing on heels and rocking shoulders while directing the band, Miss Escovedo revealed herself on stage in a long black coat which swirled about her as she danced near her timbali set. After performing the Belle of St. Mark, her next single, she removed the coat to reveal an outfit much like the one she wears on her album cover, a dark lacy top off one shoulder and tight cropped pants with revealing side panels of matching lace. You could practically feel the temperature rise as she removed the coat to cool down. Noon Rendezvous, a ballad with a gentle samba beat, toned things down a bit before Miss Escovedo launched into the rollicking Oliver's House. The live version had a heavier guitar-based funk sound than the albums, but the audience readily joined in when she encouraged it to chant the fun in the verse. Miss Escovedo took humorous advantage of her natural beauty as she vamped about the stage while the band played The Stripper, teasing the audience by asking, "Would you like to play with my timbales?" No doubt they would have, but she took the cue herself and pounced on the instrument for a brisk solo. She also strolled over to the guitarist and took control of the reverb bar of his guitar, sending howling tones through the hall. Miss Escovedo later accepted flowers from a fan, then invited him on stage to sit on a stool as she sang to him. "Whatever I do," she purred, "you've got to promise to stay here till I'm through, or else my man here will take care of you." She gestured toward a large tuxedo-clad valet standing behind him. While singing "Next Time Wipe the Lipstick Off Your Collar," she jokingly began pushing the man about as she portrayed the scorned lover of the song. While her valet held his arms, she grabbed him in a place he'll never forget, later thanking him for being such a good sport. She closed her set after nearly an hour with her hit single, The Glamorous Life, before being whisked off stage, wrapped in a luxurious fur coat. But she was back moments later, drumming with lighted red tip sticks in the darkness. She returned for an encore, noting, "This song I did with a very good friend of mine. He's not here, but we're going to do it anyway." The song was Erotic City, the friend, of course, Prince. Though she left Strawberry Shortcake and a new tune, Too Sexy, unplayed, Miss Escovedo could not be brought back for additional encores. A second show was scheduled to begin at midnight. Now, one of the things I love about this review, one is very descriptive, and I love reading these descriptive reviews of shows that I haven't seen because I didn't see a lot of these shows. And the other thing that I thought was great about this is you can tell that this person actually listens to Sheila because they said that she didn't play Strawberry Shortcake and she didn't play Too Sexy. So they had been like, following the tour. So I thought that was like really, really cool. And Chanel is saying seeing Sheila E live was a huge impact for a 16-year-old version of me. Empowerment light was glowing after the Purple Rain concert. Yeah, similarly for me, I agree with the reviewer. I thought that Sheila was one of the most beautiful women in the world, but not only that, she was a virtuosic musician. And let's see.
Would it be safe to say that Sheila E, not the person Sheila E, but Sheila E in the context of this Sheila E performing, probably one of Prince's greatest sort of, creations in terms of, the protege or the act, he created the time of Apollonia or Vanities. But it seems like Sheila E is probably the greatest of seems like the most care in not only the music, but even the stage presentation and the honing it. I mean, that sounds like an excellent act. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just action packed of what she's got going on and the costuming and just all the different roles she seems to be playing. And the fact that she's a fantastic musician, just like he seemed like he laced her up unlike anybody. I mean, and she has classic songs that Prince wrote, like always made sure she had fire out the gate. Well, one thing I wonder about Sheila, I think about those Prince albums. I wonder, do we actually ever really get the real Sheila E on those records, or were they just the sort of the act Sheila E? And I never really know what she thought about things. You know what I'm saying? They were just more character songs,
Yeah.
almost like a Morris Day. You don't
Right.
really hear Morris talk about. It's just in that character, and I
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking about that, but
So I think that's where I kind of have a different take. Like I definitely agree with you on the records, because we all know that Prince wrote those songs, he wrote those lyrics and all that. But when it came to Sheila's stage presence and also even some of her costumes, I know that they used to compete with one another just in terms of what they wore. They literally, I read or I watched some video where Sheila was talking about how they literally would give each other money. Like, I'm going to top you tonight with my outfit. I'm going to top you. And my favorite memory of hearing about that is Prince didn't know that Sheila had one leg in and one leg out. And she had on a coat. And when she took it off on stage, she said that Princess, like Princess, like you got it, me, like you won the bet tonight. Like I can't top that, So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that, and the point I'm trying to make is that I think Sheila had more agency, particularly at this point in her career, in terms of her stage presence, because she also put together her own band. You know what I mean? Like Prince wasn't doing that. That was Sheila. So Sheila had a lot of agency, and she had, been touring with Lionel Richie, with Marvin Gaye, like George Duke, like all these people. So she knew what it took, to put on a show. So I don't think that she needed Prince for the live performance. And so I think she had a lot more agency in terms of live presentation.
I guess in the sense of, most people always, she was doing a female Prince kind of, that's what I'm saying. Like obviously must have been drilled or, studied him or something to do his sort of presence. And it's funny when you talk about the competing, because that's sort of, I don't know if the time were allowed that sort of, I guess he didn't feel threatened by Sheila or something like, no, you ain't doing them. She was able to do whatever she needed to do.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that's, I mean, I guess the one thing that annoyed me that you mentioned that is that I think sometimes what I call her Prince-isms, like in
Mm,
her stage performances, it annoyed me just like when Prince would do James Brown on
mm.
stage. I was like, I love James Brown, but I don't want to see Prince doing James Brown, and I don't want to see Sheila doing Prince. You know what I mean? Because like they're so that's the only thing that would annoy me about that. And I was recently watching one of those D'Angelo concerts at from the North Sea Jazz Festival, and just seeing him do Prince, you know, in terms of the count, you know, like give me
Mhm.
one, you know, like, and then knowing that that came from from James Brown, it's just like, stop doing it, you know, just like just leave, let James be James, and you do you kind of thing. But that's my personal opinion.
Homage, man. They're giving it up.
It's definitely an homage for sure, and I know that that's the intent behind it, but I can be a music snob sometimes. All
Mhm.
right. So the next thing I want to read really quickly is this other article, which I found really fascinating that this was even published, and it's really short. So I'm going to read it.
Look
So,
at the ticket prices on the movies, though. Are you kidding?
yes, dollar 50, 250 till 6 p.m. at Lowe's.
Damn.
And okay, the only movie that I see here that I know is Woman in Red, but I don't remember the
Oh,
last.
Last
I
Starfighter?
don't remember that. You know about that?
Of course.
What who was in it?
Dreamscape. I don't know the name, but that was the movie where the boy who plays video games and then the aliens, like, that's not a video game, that's a training. You gotta come to fight the galactic battle, man. I was all over that kind of stuff.
Well, see, I didn't go to a lot of movies. When was this? 84. Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, I just didn't. I wasn't allowed to go to a lot of movies during this time, so I missed a lot in the theaters. All right. So, title of the article: Sheila E. was paid in full, says promoter, and this is about the Indianapolis show that we just read about. Last Saturday night, some 90 minutes after she was scheduled to begin her midnight show, Sheila E. walked into the Vogue stage and grabbed the microphone. She said the promoter did not want to pay us, explaining the delay to the sellout audience, but we're going to do this anyway. Her remark, according to a partner in the concert promotion, Bob McCutcheon, if I'm saying that correctly, was not entirely accurate. McCutcheon said that the problem centered on the lack of a Ticketmaster audit, which would have provided detailed information concerning the number of tickets sold for the two shows. Sheila E. performed at the Vogue without that information, a bonus, which would have been paid if total paid attendance exceeded 1,000, could not be paid. She was paid in full for both shows, said McCutcheon, who said attendance for both shows was 962, including about 100 giveaway tickets. We didn't have the manifest from Ticketmaster to back up how many people had bought tickets. The Ticketmaster people did not deliver it to us, he added, noting the audit later confirmed that a bonus payment was not called for. We paid her the amount of money she was contracted to be paid. The bonus was not paid because she did not hit the amount of people she needed to achieve the bonus. Ticket sales were limited to, this is what I didn't understand about this. It says ticket sales were limited to 600 per show, in keeping with an order from the fire marshal McCutcheon. But then earlier in the article, it says that the attendance for both shows was 962. So they were far over the fire code of 600, but they still didn't want to pay the bonus. So I thought this was like an interesting bit of news to find.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if you know, there's this really great Grace Jones documentary. And one thing about Grace Jones, and I also think Aretha Franklin, is any live performance that they gave, they had to be paid in cash up front. The same with Grace Jones. And in fact, in this documentary that was released, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, she was about to perform and she wouldn't go on until she got paid, because, and the reason why is a lot of times female performers in particular, they wouldn't pay them. So I just think this is kind of really interesting in light of that. Yes, Robert, same with Aretha. Yep. Yeah, yeah. You know, that's a good question. So maybe you're okay. Thank you, Kim. Like somebody's thinking. So 962 for both shows total. So I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yankee promoters for real.
Yeah. And
We're gonna get you in the end, Sheila. Come go on out there and do the show. Bring the caddy around the back.
and Robert's saying Aretha used to get paid, then put her purse on the stage with her.
Damn.
I don't blame her. Yep.
Thanks.
Yep, for sure. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, Kim. Thank you. It's getting too hot. Let's see. Grace Jones sung at my church a couple weeks ago. What?
Damn.
That's incredible.
Grace. Strong Jack. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
All
All
I
right.
just watched Boomerang the other day.
Oh my God, Michael. Boomerang. It's probably it's got to be in my top of the top of all time films. In fact, when it came out, my friend who's passed, my best friend, his name's Kevin, he took me to see Boomerang 5 times in the theater in real time. We went to go see that 5. Anytime I see it, I can't not watch it, even though I've seen it a gazillion times. I think it's pure genius.
It's hilarious in 2024. It's just interesting to see all those people in that movie. Like everybody goes on to be, a thing. And there's so many things, jokes and sayings that come from that movie. I'm like, God, there's so many classics.
So many classics. Yeah, I love the whole pool table analogy. Just yeah. And then also, Michael, I don't know if you remember, like there's a scene when Eddie there are all these monitors behind him, and it's a very short clip of a Marcus Miller tune. Doom, 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 doom. I love that song. I just put it on repeat. I like got it from the VHS tape. I made my own edit, and I just like, oh my God, I love, 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 love that song and that movie. So yeah, you got me like, yeah, the best. And since we're talking about Eddie, one of my other favorite Eddie movies is Life with Martin Lawrence. Love, love Life.
Classic.
For sure. Yes. Oh, so Nick Felden, I got Paisley Park shirt from Paisley Park. That's where I got it from. I got it last year from Paisley Park, not this year.
Got it from Erotic City. Erotic City.
Yes, we got it from Erotic City. That would have been so dope if it would have been Erotic City. Okay, so I found this list of the Glamorous Life Tour from this source called Prince Associates Live. Again, remember, you can always get access to this slide deck from the main website, bookclub.podside.com. Go all the way down to the bottom, and then you can click on things and go other places and all that jazz. So I thought this was pretty fascinating. So this week, we're going to talk about the September 13th New York show, and then the 14th is Boston, Massachusetts, and D68A has posted in the chat and also on their YouTube channel this show. So I'm very excited. It's in the accompanying playlist. But also today is the 40th anniversary of the September 14th show. So if you want to check out Sheila on the Glamorous Life Tour, today would be a great day for the 40th anniversary of that tour. And again, thank you D68A for providing us with a lot of these amazing shows. All right. And yes, I agree, Blade Brown. Marcus Miller soundtracks for House Party and Boomerang need to be released. That's right. And yes, Grace Jones was amazing.
I'm thinking of Pops now.
I love, okay, I'll stop. One of my favorite scenes is when Grace Jones is having dinner with Eddie Marcus, his character is Marcus. That is so hilarious. I can see her expressions right now. It's just like it's crazy. I wish she would act more. It's because she's pretty amazing. All right, so we just talked about this. I have nothing here. So
I'm sorry, just my last.
Yeah.
What was the lady's name? Eartha Kitt's name? Lady what?
What's the name?
Eloise.
Eloise, yeah, Lady Eloise.
Well, if you got a Lady Eloise at your job, woo!
Oh my God!
That's what We always say, I don't know if that movie would come out today. I mean, it could come out today, but it would just, I don't know. People would think some of that was funny, but I would.
Yeah.
That was some wild stuff.
And also just like Chris Rock's character, it just
Um,
there's so many great characters. Oh my God. Okay.
oh yeah, we getting.
All right. So look at Kim.
Now, what did Eddie Murphy do this week?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Now I'm in Boomerang. Well, okay. All right. So I have nothing here. And the reason I'm doing this on purpose, it would be great if anybody has anything for the Sheila E's New Haven, Connecticut show at Toad's Place. If you find something, email us at WDPDTW@gmail.com because we need as much information as possible. All right. So we're going to get back to what did Prince do this week? And we're going to go to page 405. And Michael, I'm going to let you read that.
All right. She's always in my hair, long version mix. She's always in our hair, instrumental mix. She's always in our hair, drum, bass, horns mix. Flying Cloud Drive, Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Producer Prince, artist Prince and Revolution, engineer Susan Rogers. A quote from Susan. A typical day at home in between tours would involve either rehearsal, a long rehearsal day, which might be 8 hours or so, followed by the whole night in the studio, or it would be just in the studio. It was usually a song a day, and a day was about 24 hours long, although sometimes a day would be 48 hours long. Possibly inspired by the recent release of Apollonia 6's Sex Shooter. She's Always in My Hair, which shares a riff from the Apollonia 6 tune, was taken off the shelf for some additional overdubbing, including a sweep near the beginning of the song, which was recorded with the DX7, a keyboard that Prince didn't own during the original tracking session from months earlier. It appears that no specific plans for releasing the song were in place, but Prince had chosen the original version of the track as the master take, and today was spent working on the long version as well as an instrumental, which was referred to as a dance mix. A few keyboard and drum overdubs help fill in the gaps left by the absence of Prince's vocals, as well as some organ and horn embellishments toward the end of the tune. But it seems as if little else was done to the instrumental. After midnight, a mixdown was done on of the instrumental. A drum, bass, and horn version was also created. Status, She's Always in My Hair long version, 6 minutes and 32 seconds, was released as She's Always in My Hair new mix on the B side of the Raspberry Beret 12-inch. She's Always in My Hair dance mix instrumental, which is 6 minutes and 30 seconds, and a drum, bass, and horn version that was created during this session. Both remain what? Unreleased. Ooh, I would love to hear that.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. So, for those of you who may be new to Prince's music, She's Always in My Hair is one of those songs where it gets a lot of love from the Prince community. And there is a cover of it from D'Angelo, which is really nice. And it's a song that is beloved in the community, but you never really hear about it outside of the community, which I think is a shame, meaning that more people outside of the purple bubble should really listen to She's Always in My Hair.
Mm.
All right. So I love this. Kim says, free the horns. That's right. Because we would love to hear all of these different versions that we don't have access to. All right. So we're going to go on to our next reading, which is the next page. Well, no, the same page. Page 406, Wednesday, September 12th, 1984. I'll read this. Paisley Park Strings, Jam, Funky Rehearsal, Raspberry Beret Rehearsal, and Basic Tracking, Flying Cloud Drive Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Strings, 8 p.m. Unknown Rehearsal Tracking. producers Wendy and Lisa, artist Prince, and the Revolution engineer Susan Rogers. Now, the one thing I want to say, I know Duane sometimes read this. I'm curious why, Duane, you didn't also put producer Prince, because you have producers Wendy and Lisa. I know that they did the strings, but wasn't Prince there for the basic tracking for Raspberry Beret, based on what I read? So it would be nice if you ever do an update to also add Prince as a producer on this date as well. All right. So what we're going to do is move over to page 407, because this is a long chapter. I'm not going to read the whole thing. And we're going to start sort of in the middle of the page where it says, after the work on the strings. So after the work on the strings by Wendy and Lisa, and Lisa in particular, it seems. After the work on the strings, Prince jammed with members of the Revolution on a groove he listed as funky, and then taught the others Raspberry Beret, a song that supposedly dated back several years, according to Des Dickerson. This is Des Dickerson. One of the little-known facts is that this song was written while I was still in the band, Raspberry Beret, and I have very, very clear memories of being in the back of the tour bus with guitars and these portable little guitar amps, working the chord changes and the vocals and the elements of that song while we were touring. So that song for me had a special place because I was there in its early stages. I was there in its prototype stage, and to hear the final version and see it be one of those hits that's very much connected with him as an icon, that's kind of a cool thing. According to studio documents, a version of Raspberry Beret was originally recorded on April 27, 1982 in Studio 2 at Sunset Sound. However, during today's session, Prince began creating a new version from scratch, ignoring what he recorded more than 2 years earlier. Now, this is where it gets tricky with counting like how many songs Prince wrote, because like we just talked about with Paisley Park, there's another song called Paisley Park. And same thing with Love and Sex. There's two different love and sexes. And it's just like, it gets really tricky when you start trying to like literally count how many songs Prince wrote, because of all of these sort of reusing of titles and things of that nature. The history of the song is shrouded in mystery, but considering how Prince worked, that isn't a surprise. This is the first I've heard of there being a prior version, recalled Susan Rogers. There's no tape that existed that was called Raspberry Beret. I know because I saw him do it. I saw him writing the lyrics for that, so I know that there were no lyrics before. I know that the lyrics to Raspberry Beret were done when he was sitting there. And I also know that when I came to work for him, one of the first things I did was to gather up all the tapes, and there was nothing called Raspberry Beret. It could be maybe a song that he wrote down in April of '82 and called it Raspberry Beret. Rogers continued, and then later changed the title to it later on the tape box. It may say something else. That's really a mystery. Prince had included an instrumental version of the song on some piano work he'd reportedly recorded in the early February of 1984, so the song was likely in some form of existence. It is unclear how far along the studio version was before today's session, but no matter how complete it was placed on the shelf along with many other songs that were written, but deemed not ready for release. He would pull stuff out from the vaults that would fit his album, relates engineer Peggy Leonard. For example, Raspberry Beret was old. That's what she said. That was one of his songs from a long time ago. He has vaults of material. I'm going to skip the next two paragraphs. Sensing how well Raspberry Beret would fit in with the vibe of the new album he'd been creating, Prince gathered several members of the Revolution to help him re-record the track. After a few rehearsals to work out any issues, Prince asked Rogers if she was ready to record, and Prince and the band began the song. I'm going to skip over to page 409. The second from the bottom paragraph. As the Around the Roll in the Day album progressed, Prince spent more time working either on his own or with the help of Wendy and Lisa. Days like this, when he used the entire band, was becoming more rare, and the unity they had recording Purple Rain was dissolving. Status. An edited version of Raspberry Beret, 3 minutes and 33 seconds, was included on Around the Roll in a Day. In May 1985, 4 weeks after it appeared on the album, it was released in the United States as the album's first single. And many other territories, Paisley Park was released first, also in May, with Raspberry Beret following a month later as a second single. It peaked at number 2 in the Billboard Hot 100. The full-length version of Raspberry Beret, 6 minutes and 36 seconds, would be released on a 12-inch. All right.
Didn't the single come out after the album? I can't remember. I don't know. I felt like the album came out with no singles for some reason.
I felt that I actually agree with you. Let's go to Prince Vault and see what it says. So the album came out in April 22nd of 1985. And yes, and Raspberry Beret came out May 15th. So a little less than a month later, for sure. Yeah, the album came out first. And I love Karan saying that she's always in my hair. Extended version will forever be. Yes, extended version is really great. And I would say the same about the full version of Raspberry Beret. I really love the finger symbols and the I can't even do it. You know what I mean? The voices. I love that. So I mentioned this, I think, last week when you were here, but I always love the original. I call it the original version, like the longest version of any Prince song is the version that I like. I never like the edited version.
Right.
I want the whole long thing. And during this time, particularly when quote unquote the dance mixes, it really elevated the songs, and usually it made them funkier, like in my personal opinion. Like taking a song like Another Hole in Your Head on the album versus the 12-inch. It's just like it just like really levels it up in a way that the album version just never can compare to. That's my personal opinion. Yes. So I kind of remember this too, Chris. Chris saying, I remember Prince saying he wasn't going to make any videos for Around the World Day, but he must have changed his mind with Raspberry Beret. He definitely said that with Sign of the Times for sure. And yeah. So I know, Michael, that you need to.
Yes, I do need to bounce up out of here, but I had a great time. Thank you.
All right. Do you want to say anything to the people? Is that it?
Enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you, D'Angela. Peace to everybody in the chat, and I'll check y'all next week.
All right. Thank you, Michael. See ya. All right. So I am going to go to the next reading, which is going to be on page 410. So hopefully you will join me here. And this is Thursday, September 13th, 1984. Raspberry Beret, strings, background vocals, Flying Cloud Drive Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Producers Wendy Melvoin and Lisa Coleman. Artist Revolution / Prince. Engineer Susan Rogers. I'm going to skip the quote by Susan Rogers. And I'm going to skip the first paragraph and go to Prince didn't attend the session, and the vibe was often very different when he wasn't around. And I'm going to skip to the last paragraph and skip the quote from Rogers. According to Rogers, Wendy and Lisa recorded their background vocals on this same day. Although Prince didn't attend the sessions, he was reportedly delighted with the results. So that's Raspberry Beret. All right. Next up is we're going to get to what I call the main event of this week, which is essentially on page 411. I will read it with the quickness, but I have a lot of supporting images from this particular show, which I think is great. And I don't know, D68A, if you're still here, if you could find this show, oh my God, you'd be my best friend because I can't find it. And it is Sheila E's show at the Ritz, New York. And it's Thursday, September 13th, 1984. The capacity is 1,500. It was sold out. And this is a quote from Sheila E. Prince came on stage and we played side by side. The crowd was going wild. You couldn't squeeze a fly into that room. It felt like 120 degrees. And everyone was soaked from the funkiness and the heat. That is a show we need to hear. Prince flew to New York City to perform with Sheila E. at the Ritz. a club heat play in 1980 and 1981. In fact, we talked about the Prince Ritz show at the DM40 GB30 symposium, and we had Vernon Reid, Andre Simone, Jason Orr, and Nicolay do a live commentary of that show. I will make sure I put the show as well as a commentary in the accompanying playlist because I forgot to do that. And so joining her for Erotic City and When Doves Cry. Sheila was on the road promoting her album, The Glamorous Life, and she would soon join Prince for the upcoming Purple Rain tour. After the show, Prince flew back to Minneapolis to continue rehearsing and working on new music. All right, so let's look at some images since we don't have any audio of how amazing the show was. This is an image, well, not necessarily this particular image, but seeing Sheila in that particular jacket and Prince in what he's wearing. We've seen a lot of these images over the years, and this is essentially from this New York City Ritz show, again, Wednesday, September 13th, 1984. I love the expression on Prince's face on this image, and you can tell like he's really into whatever guitar part he's playing right now. I love this image because of the way that Sheila is looking at Prince. And I don't know the photographer for this one. So if anybody knows the photographer for this one, please let me know. I really appreciate it. And then here, this is Gary Gershoff, the photographer. Again, I love this image, just the way that actually Sheila's not really looking at Prince. She's kind of looking behind him, but I just like this look on her face. And then this one, I do feel like, I don't know, it's again, she's kind of looking behind Prince, but I just love how cinematic and gestural and the movement in this photo, also by Gary Gershoff. And it's another image so you can get a better sense of Sheila's outfit. You can see it from behind. And also I love like the, I don't know, the shoe bracelets. That's the only way I can call it. If you really look at the details of her shoe, just like the chains that are going around the shoe are really cool. And Prince and his signature shades from Purple Rain is really cool. I love these kind of shots. I prefer like casual candid shots as opposed to studio shots. I don't know. I just get a kick out of more casual shots. And I think this is an amazing photo, again, by Gary Gershoff. And yeah, actually, Nick Feldon, I know that at the Immersive Prince show in Chicago, like a couple of years ago, they were actually selling those Purple Rain sunglasses. And I love this photo also because you can, if you look to the right, you can see the crowd. And I love the guy's arm on the stage and how intently he's looking at Prince and Sheila. I just think this is an amazing shot by Gary Gershoff. And this is another shot by Ebet, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Roberts. I love the close-up of, again, the shades and Prince, Sheila singing together. And this is a shot by Paul Natkin, which is really important, another really important Prince photographer. We'll talk about that in a few seconds. And this is another shot. Again, I love any shot with Prince with the guitar in his hand. But this is the same Paul Natkin who took some photos from the First Avenue birthday show. So if you've seen that name, this is why, from that show. And then also, I didn't realize this, have to give credit to Laura Tebert for letting me know that Paul Natkin actually has a photo book out. You can see My Beloved Tina Turner is on the cover with Mick Jagger. But within this book, there are a couple of photos of Prince. This is obvious, you know, this is a really fantastic spread in this particular book, which I really loved. And, you know, we have the collar and the trench coat silhouette. And then we also have a shot from the First Avenue show we just talked about. And again, I love that. Actually, I think the Tina Turner shot is the back of the slip cover, but it's nice to see them side by side. And we're going to talk about Sade for a hot second. Last week, Sade is also in this book. I call her Sadie, but yeah, that's me. And then this is more photos by Paul Natkin. Again, I think this is a really cool shot of Prince at the Ritz. And I love, again, talking to Von Terry earlier this year at the Erotic City 40 Symposium. I just really pay more attention to a lot of the accessories, like the button on the top corner and the button on the sleeve, and just a jacket. Amazing material. Like some of the material is just like really insane for some of his outfits during this time period. And I always love when Prince is smiling when he's performing. So I love the shot. And this is a very cool shot. It very much reminds me of a little bit of the cover of Duane's next book that we will be reading, which I'm very excited about. And yes, Lisa, you really need to find your controversy concert negatives, because that's my favorite era, is controversy. So I'd like to see any photos that you have from controversy. That would be amazing. And I missed this before. I love that. Shoe charms. And in addition to this one, we're going to end with sort of an iconic Prince pose. You see him do this a lot. You know, the hands up in the air. Love that. And then you have the lace scarf tied around the microphone. Love that. Okay. So I don't have anything for Boston, Massachusetts, except for D68A has the entire show on his YouTube channel. Again, this is the 40th anniversary of this particular performance by Sheila E. at the Paradise. All right. However, we do have a review. So I'm going to read that since we don't really have anything, like no visuals or anything like that. So this is from the Boston show. Again, today is the 40th anniversary of that. So Sheila E's flair is fit for Prince. Sheila E at the Paradise Friday Night by Brett Milano, special to the Globe. It's almost like seeing Prince. That kind of goes back to Michael's quote earlier about Prince being like a female version of Prince. So it's almost like seeing Prince, said one Sheila E fan who had a point. Singer-drummer Sheila Escovedo is the Purple Rain Wizard's latest discovery, and she learned her lessons well. She can kick up a bright, spirited mix of rock and funk, but she's still looking for her own voice. Before teaming with Prince, who reportedly produced and played on her album without taking credit, Sheila played percussion with her father, San Francisco fusion bandleader Pete Escovedo. And I can't remember who it was, but I want to give mad thanks for last week, because someone mentioned that there was an autobiography of Sheila's dad, which I didn't even know about, My Life in the Key of E. So I made sure I got my copy. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. So thank you. And I apologize that I can't remember who you were who alerted us of this, but this is why I love doing this every week, because I learn so much from all of you who are in the chat. So thank you, and keep it coming. Okay. So her current act still has traces of jazz and salsa, but they take a backseat to her new Prince-influenced style. The mix of gritty guitar, sweet melody, and funk backbeat may sound familiar, but Sheila handles it with flair. Her strengths are her cool, sultry vocals, and a band that shifts capably from jazz workouts to dance grooves. Like most of Prince's associates, The Time, Vanity, Apollonia 6, and Apollonia is misspelled in this article, but that's okay. They gave her 2 P's and 1 L. Sheila sings more about sex and romance. She presents herself as an exotic fantasy, taking the stage in a full-length mink coat. She flirts shamelessly with the audience, bumping and grinding on the fast songs and grabbing hands on the slow ones. Her songs hint at bisexuality, Belle of St. Mark, Wild Parties, Oliver's House, and Indiscreet Affairs, Noon Rendezvous. Even on the instrumentals, she'd add suggestive moans when the rhythms got hot. It could have gotten offensive, but Sheila's sassy humor was the saving grace. Her showpiece was a slow ballad, giving advice to a straying lover. Next time, wipe the lipstick off your collar. She cuddled and kissed an audience volunteer while she sang, winking at the front rows. Better take a cold shower now, she said as her assistant was ushered away. Between the raunchy jokes came signs of a serious musician. She took fast, flashy solos on Latin percussion, stirring up sparks with the band. Covering Prince's erotic city, she added enough rhythmic kick and party spirit to match Prince's recording of the tune. Every side of Sheila's personality, torch singer, percussion ace, and sex symbol, finally came together in her finale, the hit single Glamorous Life. By far her best song, it gave her a chance to open up and emote. The beat was still strong and the delivery was still suggestive, but its tale of a lovelorn socialite went for the heart. With more songs as strong as Glamorous Life, Sheila E. could jump away from Prince's shadow. For now, she offers a shot of risque, stylish fun. Now, compared to the other review, I prefer the other review because it was really descriptive. This one was a little bit more generic. It felt a little bit like if ChatGPT took the other article and gave a general review. But one of the things that I like about this particular review is despite all the suggestiveness in the performance, this reviewer still understands that Sheila E. is a serious musician, that all of the other stuff is not taking away from Sheila's musicianship. So I really appreciate that. And then another thing that I like about this particular review is how much time they spend on the song The Glamorous Life, and how they say that like this was it seems like to me, because they didn't really speak that much to the other songs in the way that they are talking about The Glamorous Life, just how amazing Sheila is with the performance of Glamorous Life. I've said this many times, but anytime you see Sheila E. perform The Glamorous Life to this very day, it is incendiary. Like, it is scorching hot, and you can tell that she still loves to perform the song. Like, every single time, the performance is amazing. I've seen some amazing drum solos over the years through The Glamorous Life. So The Glamorous Life is a song that keeps on giving. I never tire of that, for sure. And I'm so happy to see that Christina also got the key of E. So that's amazing. Thank you, Chris Bournet. Thank you so much for mentioning it, because I didn't know anything about this book, and I don't know how in the world I missed it. So thank you so much. Thank you for noticing, Kim, that I'm using the Glamorous Life color scheme. It is also a visual reminder to me that we're about to talk about Sheila as opposed to Prince. And like I said before, I really want to shine a light on the Glamorous Life tour right before the Purple Rain tour, because again, Sheila is an amazing musician. And we talked about this when Michael was here. Like, she just doesn't get enough for being the musical director, like forming her own bands. Like, she had a lot of agency in her career, and we cannot forget that. Oh my God, Lisa, if you do that, again, best friend. Controversy is the era that I live for. I love the controversy era. Yes, Lisa, anytime the Glamorous Life is on, you can't help but move. And if you're not moving when the Glamorous Life come on, I don't know what I can do for you. Yes, Christina, always gets people dancing. Yes, Chris is always a showstopper. Yes, I've never seen her with Dave Koz, but I think that would be really interesting, seeing her perform her own songs in someone else's set. Interesting. Thank you so much. All right, so let's see what we have next. And all right, so our final reading of this week is from Friday, September 14th, 1984, page 411, for those of you who are following along. And let me make sure you guys can see me, if I can find my mouse. It's acting a little wacky right now. Hold on. Okay, here we go. All right. Friday, September 14th, 1984, high fashion strings, Flying Cloud Drive,
Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Producers Wendy Melvoin and Lisa Coleman. Artist, The Family. Engineer, Susan Rogers. I'm going to skip the quote by Susanna so you can have something to read. And I'm going to read the first couple of sentences from the first paragraph and then jump to the next two. This session was the first attempt to add strings to a song by The Family. Prince had been very happy with the strings Lisa Coleman was overseeing for his own tracks. So Susie Katayama and Novi Navag were brought back in for the recording. The results are unclear, but further work was required for this particular track. Now, for those of you who don't know, Novi Navag, if it's the same lineup from Raspberry Beret, Susie's on cello and Novi is on viola, but it could be different for this song. But that is the lineup for Raspberry Beret, so I would assume it would be the same. But again, making assumptions is not the best thing to do, according to the Three Stooges. Okay. One of the good features at the beginning was that Prince allowed me freedom and space to make value judgments. This is Clare Fisher, who would work with Prince for several decades. He left me completely free. Again, this is Clare talking. It is a wise man who, after he hires someone, does not interfere with his product. Prince was very open in this area. And this just really speaks to how much Prince loved Clare Fisher's work because, one, they worked for decades together and he gave him absolute freedom, which is pretty amazing to read. All right. One of the good features at the beginning, and we already read that. And then it was decided to send several tracks to Fisher for his scoring, starting with River Run Dry. And by October, Clare added strings to 5 of the songs for The Family. Okay. So thank you, Lee Christian. So Lee Christian said page 390 if you have the old copy, but we are reading the New Testament, which is the expanded edition, the one with the blue title, or as C. Lee would say, the NIV version. So you only know the NIV version if you read the Bible. Okay, so yes, Rodney, shout out to Clare and Brent, always, for sure. Now, one of the reasons why I don't want to read the Susanna quote is I've heard different stories over the years from different people. This story from Susanna is one story. I've heard another story from St. Paul. And so in terms of how did Prince get connected to Clare Fisher? So again, I'm not going to read that for that reason. And there's other versions I've heard too. So I don't know which one is the right version. Okay, so this is the end of What Did Prince Do This Week, but we know we have our music break. We're also going to have a culture break, and we're going to talk about the Purple World a little bit, even though we talked about it at the beginning of this episode. So week 37, I got it right here with the asterisk. So far in 1984, we think Prince did 48 songs so far and 91 so far. The asterisk is there because we don't really know for sure. This is an estimate. So these are the songs that have been tracked in 1984. And this is where it gets tricky because if you look at the top, we have that Paisley Park instrumental, March 9th, 1984. But according to Duane's book, it is a totally different version than the one that he recorded this week. So I have put them as 2 totally different songs, even though they have the same title. And then Raspberry Beret is also a bit murky because of what we read this week in terms of whether or not it was truly written in 1984. But since Prince started from scratch, I would think that we would want to count it towards 1984. But again, I'm not sure. Yes, Suzu's Petals, this is correct. Always found it so fascinating that Prince and Clare Fisher never met and were able to produce such extraordinary music. I really love the story. I think it was on one of Michael Dean's podcasts when Michael interviewed Brent Fisher and how they actually almost met because they were coming down. One was coming up. Either Prince was coming up. I think Prince was coming up and Clare Fisher was coming down, and Brent's saw that they were about to meet, and he finagled it some kind of way where they actually never saw each other still. So I thought that was really, I don't know how Brent would have done that on the same exact staircase, but they never met. Yes, Elder Broward, what a year, and we got a lot of butter to go. That is correct, because we're going to start the Purple Rain tour. So it's really, really, really crazy. Yes, and Rodney is recounting what I just said. Yes, they were standing right next to each other and decided not to mess with the magic. That is correct. So let's, and then we're going to skip through this just to save time. But even though we're doing pretty good on time. Okay, culture break really quickly. I just want to say, rest in peace to James Earl Jones. He was one of the best. He had so many roles. You know, obviously, he's the voice of Darth Vader, but my personal favorite is he was in a film called Claudine, and Curtis Mayfield did the soundtrack to Claudine, and Diane Carroll is his co-star. So if you've never seen Claudine, I would highly recommend that you see it. And so he would definitely be missed for sure. All right, music break. Similarly, rest in peace. We lost two greats this week. Frankie Beverly of Maze also passed away this week. Happy Feelings is a song that is near and dear to me. I'll never tire of that song. He has so many other amazing songs. You know, Southern Girl, I'm a Southern Girl. So just really, really, really amazing. Yes, Chris, thank you so much. Claudine is definitely a classic for sure. All right, and just want to remind everyone that Layla Hathaway is currently on tour, and next week she'll be in Cincinnati, Ohio on the 20th. That Bilal's new album is coming very, very soon. He just dropped a second single. This is the first single, Sunshine, which I love a lot. So hopefully it'll be dropping on September 27th. The name of the album is Adjust Your Brightness. And Corey Henry's next gig for his Music for Your Soul 2024 World Tour will be on the 28th in Monterey, California. And for those of you who are in the tri-state area, I'm super excited that Michelle Indegeocello will be at NJPAC, which stands for New Jersey Performing Arts Center, with a performance from her latest album, which is amazing, No More Water, The Gospel of James Baldwin, on October 6th. Bilal will also be going on tour for his new album, Adjust Brightness, the tour, starting on October 7th. He will be in New York on October 10th. Andre will also be in Brooklyn with Michelle Indegeocello, which is kind of crazy, at BAM, which is the Brooklyn Academy of Music. And there's 2 shows. And he will also be at the Fox Theater that we talked about last week in Atlanta, which is an amazing venue. And we all should know the last place that Prince performed. And it should be a magical night in that magical venue, because it's my favorite venue. I just love it. It's beautiful and stunning. If you've never been, treat yourself and go to the Fox Theater. And I'm extremely excited about this tribute to funk that's also going to be at NJPAC on November 14th. And it's going to feature Bilal. I go see Bilal whenever he performs, if I can get to him. And we got Vernon Reid. We have Nona Hendricks, which is another living legend. Christian McBride. And I saw Christian McBride maybe a month ago in the park in Harlem. He did a free event as part of the Charlie Parker Jazz Festival. Extraordinary musician. And we have George Clinton. Speaking of George, and I forgot because I need to put these in the accompanying playlist. Nelson George, he released a funk documentary roughly 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. And he is slowly putting up all of his footage from that documentary on his YouTube channel. And the one that he put up this past week was for D'Angelo. And all of these interviews seem to be taking place in 2012. And watching that video of D'Angelo just reminds me of how much of a musician that D'Angelo is, and how he just lit up talking about music. It's an amazing interview. So definitely check it out. I'll put it in the company playlist. In addition to that, Nelson George has also released an interview with George Clinton, like the full interview, also one with Bootsy Collins, and also one with Shock G. So if you haven't been watching these interviews, like that's like been one of my dreams. Like whenever there's a documentary that I love, there's always edited footage in the documentary. But he has these full interviews with these musicians, and you learn so much. So I hope that you'll check it out, particularly the one of D'Angelo. If you're a music head like me, you'll understand that he is also a music head. So it's just so amazing to see someone else just light up talking about music. And it was a really great interview. So hats off to Nelson George for releasing those. I wish that more people would do that, like release the entire interviews from some of the docs that are put out. All right. In addition to George Clinton, there's also Savion Glover. Yes, I love this, Kim. Free the B-roll. That's right. Yeah. So the Nelson George doc, I think is kind of hard to find. I think you can get it through his website. Like, I don't know if it's on streaming services, but I saw it when it came out in real time. And what's crazy is that when I saw it, Nelson George did a Q&A, and it was at Long Island University in Brooklyn. And I didn't realize that D'Angelo was in the audience, and so much so that he was actually in the same row as me. And as soon as Nelson George called him out, he got up and left. But one of the things that I asked Nelson George at that documentary screening was, why didn't he interview Betty Davis? Betty Davis wasn't in this. And he said because another documentary was being worked on by her. And it did eventually come out. We did the Betty Davis Symposium, and we had the director do a Q&A. We screened it and all that. But I still feel like she should have been in conversation with the other amazing musicians within Nelson George's doc. So that's just me. Thank you so much, Christina. I don't know if, yes, and this is also a really good documentary, Devil's Pie, for sure. It is a must see. It's a little depressing, so it's not something I would want to watch over and over again, but it is definitely a good doc. And thank you, Christina, for saying this, because I don't know if you guys are taking advantage of the playlist or not, but it's really great to know that Christina is. So. And so I can understand that, Kyle. But the thing about the Betty Davis documentary for me is that that was the only way we got live footage of Betty Davis. Before that documentary, there was absolutely no live footage of Betty Davis. And that was something that I was living for. I wanted to see her perform live. So the director was able to find this documentary and the live footage of her performance. And what's crazy about it is that he said that it was literally in somebody's like kitchen cupboard, just like the reels just like hanging out. So yeah. Actually, if you do your Googles, as Michael Dean would say, Kim, I think someone actually posted it on YouTube. I think I saw it pop up this week or next week. I mean, not next week, this week or last week. And then I saw it also, I think, on Daily Motion, I think. So you can find it if you look for it. Yeah, Lisa, definitely. You can actually watch the Betty Davis doc if you have Amazon. I know it was on Prime, and for a long time it was free to watch. And it's basically Betty Davis, They Say I'm Different. It's not like your normal documentary. It's very avant-garde. And it does have what I call your talking heads. They interview her band, members of her band, which is called Funk House. And others who played with her. So it's an interesting doc. She did not want to be, even though the directors interviewed her, she did not want to be seen. She said that I'm paraphrasing here, but she was like, nobody wants to see an old lady. So she refused to be seen in the doc, but you can hear her voice in the B Well, okay. Well, another thing. One thing I don't like about the doc is that they do have someone narrating it in her voice, and it's not Betty. It would have been really great if it could have been Betty narrating her own story, but I kind of understand why. If she didn't want to be seen, maybe she didn't want to narrate it either. But as you know, I love hearing artists speak in their own voice. Again, I'm on a campaign to get Morris Day to record his own audiobook. There is an audiobook of Morris's book, but it's not Morris. And just imagine how amazing an audiobook of Morris' book would be if he read it himself. So I'm very much a fan of people reading their own work or narrating their own lives. And that's one of the things that I loved about the David Bowie documentary, which was called Moon Age Daydream. While I didn't like the documentary as a whole, what I loved is it was David Bowie's own voice throughout the entire documentary, which is really, really cool. So actually, Chris, when the obviously Betty Davis has passed since then, but when the documentary came out, which was 2017, Betty was actually still very much alive. And so, during all the filming, she was alive. But if you got the DVD, and I think you can still buy the DVD, there is some extra footage of interviews with her, and they film her from behind. So you can see her silhouette, you can see her hands, but you never see her face. So, yeah. Yes. In fact, actually, Panic Survivor, thanks so much. So I preferred Montage of Heck as a documentary over Moon Age Daydream. And I love David Bowie as an artist. And in fact, I worked for him a couple of times. So David Bowie is very near and dear to me. And I love the idea of how they constructed Moon Age Daydream. But I actually preferred the Montage of Heck, which is also another amazing documentary if you haven't seen it. And if you want to learn more about Nirvana. All right. And let's see. Yes, it's definitely very different. And I loved the concept and the idea behind it. It's just I personally had some issues with the I don't know, Kyle Christian, about Electric Purgatory, The Fate of the Black Rocker. I've never actually heard of it, so thank you for bringing it up. So, all right. So again, if you're going to be in the tri-state area, and I think I was about to talk about Savion Glover. If you don't know who he is a tap dancer, and he is something to see in person. I can't remember, I saw him a very long time ago for Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk, which is kind of what he's known for. And I had never really seen, I had seen footage of tap dancers, like Sammy Davis Jr. and like the Nicholas Brothers, but I had never really seen it in real life. And I wasn't really like looking forward to it a little bit, but after seeing him perform, I was like, oh my God, I get it. It was like powerful. So I can't wait to see him again because it's been a long, long time. All right. Thank you, Robert. I thank you. I'm so happy to know that someone understands what I mean. You'd have to watch Moon Age Daydream. Like I said, I love the idea, and some of the footage was amazing. I'm glad that I watched it, but for me, in the end, I don't know. All right. Yes, I can imagine. Yes, I'm sure he was devastated after Gregory Hines passed. Yes. Okay. So Moon Age Daydream was a better idea than documentary exploring his weirdness and artiness. Couldn't deal with Montage of Heck, but most Kurt's stuff is raw for me. He's changed my whole life in a way. No, I can totally understand that. So I don't know if you know, but there's a new album coming out called Transa by the Red Hot organization. They've put out a lot of compilations for decades now around social justice causes. And what's incredible about this particular release is that Sade is going to contribute a track, which I'm very excited about because, recordings from Sade are usually very few and far between. In addition, there's going to be a new track on here from Andre 3000. And for those of you who, I don't know if you know or not, because I didn't hear about this. In fact, I can't even remember how I found out about this. There is a version of I Would Die For You with Wendy and Lisa and another person that I can't remember. So you might want to check this out if you want to hear new music from Sade, Andre 3000, Wendy and Lisa. And I put this in the purple world. So the name of the compilation is Transa, and also Sam Smith for some of you who might be into Sam Smith, especially if you're a Disclosure fan. And then in the purple world, I put the I Would Die For You. It's Lauren Otter. I don't know Lauren Otter, but they're with Wendy and Lisa for I Would Die For You. I put this in the playlist in case accompanying playlist for this week if you want to hear it. Also, we want to make sure we continue to, really send nothing but good blessings and good wishes for Jeremiah. And someone has started a GoFundMe. And if you if you go to our website, bookclub.polissolid.com, go all the way to the bottom. You can see the slideshow. And then if you click on this, it will take you to the GoFundMe. But I'm sure if you do your Googles, as Michael Dean would say, you can also find the GoFundMe to help with expenses with Jeremiah for his treatments, which are very, very expensive, as I'm sure all of us know. And we talked a little bit at the beginning, so I'm really happy that we had someone tell us, how amazing the Bernadette Anderson Way street naming ceremony and block party was. This is something that I really wish that I could have gone to. I know it was incredible. Please let us know. And Robert says, if anyone has a link to Electric Purgatory, I'd love to see it. So that would be nice. And then there's going to be a foundation charity event at Paisley Park with Morris Day and the Time, Sheila E, and the New Power Generation. That is a really amazing lineup and a really good cause. And then I don't know why some of my images aren't showing up this week, but there is an accompanying playlist. Yes, for sure. We want to congratulate. That's so amazing that she has a Bernadette Anderson, Andre Simone's mom, has a street named in her honor. So there is let me go and share this tab instead. In the playlist, you'll see that Esperanza Spalding conversation that I talked about. Again, for those of you who are talking about the Netflix documentary, in the chat, Michael Dean did a whole session on it last night that you can check out also on the accompanying playlist. And Funkatopia is going to do another whole show on it on Monday. And then you can also see some of the songs that we talked about today and Prince worked on during this week in 1984. You can see the D68 Sheila E. Boston show here as well. And then that version of I Would Die For You. I'm going to add some additional videos to this as well based on things that we talked about today. So I will add them there. And next week will be week 38. It will be not much compared to this week in 1984. There's only 2 pages, 412 to 414. So it won't be as long as this week. I think we are currently, and then next week we will be talking about Around the World in a Day, a mix for that happened on Sunday. And then on Friday, there was a piano jam. And it says, contains only version of the latter. So that's what we'll be talking about next week. I hope that You guys have an amazing week. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and Michael Dean earlier. And I will see you next week for another session of What Did Prince Do This Week? Have a great day.